Welcome back, guys. On today's video, we're going to be talking about the injury equation and 3 of my favorite moves to stay healthy in a career in the fire service, attacking our primary injury locations. So first off, what is the injury equation? The injury equation is when applied forces are greater than tissue tolerance, that's going to result in an injury. So what does that mean? Applied forces. If I'm, say, lifting something up, say a patient, and I lift something up here in a pretty unoptimal form, it's going to apply a lot of force to areas that aren't necessarily designed to take that force. When that force is greater than what my tissues can tolerate, that's going to be an injury. If you look at, say, football, you can look at an example of someone getting a helmet to a knee. That is a very straightforward example of applied forces that most likely my knee is not going to be able to tolerate those tissues. But like I said, it goes into a lot of the stuff that we do. So one way that we can improve our tissue's ability to absorb force is by just getting stronger. I can improve my muscles' strength tolerance and ability to absorb and create force. So whether it be lifting something, I can get better positionally and learn how to lift properly. So instead of lifting here and putting my back in a compromised position, I can learn how to hip hinge and squat properly to load up the muscles that can actually tolerate that force. But I can also just get stronger. If I have to lift something that's 250 pounds and my maximal strength is 500 pounds, that's only 50% of my maximal strength. So my relative effort is a whole lot lower versus if I can lift something that's only 300 pounds, my maximal strength, and I need to go lift something that's 250, my relative effort is a lot higher because I'm a lot closer to how much I can lift. So by increasing our strength, our maximal pure strength, I can decrease my relative effort and increase my body's abilities to create and absorb forces. So that's one kind of easy way to be safer and be healthier is by just purely getting stronger. I'm not talking about bulking up. That's a very different thing. But strength is really our base foundation to staying healthy by improving all of my body's tissues' ability to absorb and withstand forces, which goes beyond muscles too. I can increase through weightlifting my joint integrity, my tendons capacity, and just all these positional things to help keep me healthy, which is why strength training is a major part of my personal training and the training I do with my clients. The other thing I can do is look at why is my tissue absorbing that much force. Obviously, if it's a one-time thing, like taking a helmet to the knee or lifting a patient, it's pretty clear that that is the force is coming in. But if it's something like an overuse injury, we need to take a bigger look as to, say I'm going to use my elbow for example. Why is my elbow taking that much forces? So with something like my elbow, where I can certainly pronate and supinate, and there's designed to be rotation, a lot of the times it can be a symptom, not the cause of shoulder dysfunction. So if my shoulder, which is designed to externally, internally rotate, abduct, adduct, if it can't rotate as much as it's supposed to, and I need to do something that's kind of back here, my elbow now is going to rotate more than it is designed to do. So my shoulder, which is supposed to do shoulder things, if it can't do shoulder things, my elbow is now going to have to do shoulder things on top of doing elbow things. So it's really going to take more forces in than what it's designed to do. And I can really apply that concept to just about every joint. My knee, primarily a hinge joint, although it can rotate as well. If my ankle is dysfunctional and it can't do all of my ankle things, or my hip, which is designed to externally, internally rotate, flex, extend, abduct, and adduct. If my hip can't do hip things, now my knee is going to have to do hip things, and it's going to suffer. By just gait cycle, if I'm standing with my feet rotated out and I try and walk, instead of my knee tracking in a nice straight line, now my knee is tracking on the inside and rotating when it shouldn't be rotating. So same thing with my low back. If my hips can't do hip things, my back might have to take up the slack. If my upper spine, thoracic spine can't rotate, my lower back's gonna try and rotate. So with these kind of nagging, overused, long-term injuries, we need to take a joint-by-joint approach of looking upstream and downstream as to really why am I suffering these many forces on a daily basis. So areas for injuries in the fire service are hip and or knee related, shoulder related, and spine related. So we're gonna focus on 2 mobility moves, one for the hips and one for the shoulders, which are kind of our hubs of mobility because they're both designed to do a lot of movement, and as well as one of my favorite strength exercises to help strengthen our low back. So first up, we're gonna go with the hips. We're gonna get set up in a 90-90 position, which just means that both knees are at 90 degrees, and my hips kind of roughly 90 degrees as well. So my shin and my femur on opposite legs are going to be parallel. I'm going to start with this back leg, my trail leg. You can support yourself behind if you need to. I'll even demo this version because it's the easiest one, but if you can go unsupported as well. But I'm going to take this leg, which is internally rotated, and I'm going to externally rotate it, drive it out. When I can't come open any farther, I'm going to open up, drive both of my legs out. So I'm working on now this abduction. And then I'm going to transfer myself across. So now I'm externally rotated and internally rotated in a slightly flexed and abducted position. Not that you need to know what all of that means, but basically I'm just taking through my hip joints through a very complete range of motion. Trying to avoid pain, not trying, I am avoiding pain. Opening and closing down again, just going back and forth. If I can do 2 sets of 3 per side of these before my workout, as I kind of just get opened up in the morning, it's just gonna help my hips get open and make sure that my hips can in fact do hip things. So the next one I'm gonna do is a shoulder, it's called a CAR, controlled articular rotations. We're gonna do these up against a wall. So I'm gonna start with my bicep facing up. I'm gonna bring my bicep up, get to my ear. When I get to my ear, I'm gonna try and think about driving my arm past. I like to use my hand on my chest to make sure that my chest isn't rotating, because what I'm trying to do here is isolate my shoulder and then start to rotate my arm back. And if I need to, I can take a little step away from the wall, but I'm gonna start to rotate, turn my thumb down. So I'm internally rotating now, reaching down, keep on rotating that thumb down till eventually my hand is at my hip and my thumb is facing backwards. So I am at terminal internal rotation of the shoulder in this starting position. And then I can just reverse. I'm going to extend my shoulder, rotate back around, really trying to fight, touch all the little end ranges, get my shoulder by my ear again, deflection. And again, I'm rotating my shoulder up, 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 and then coming on all the way back down. So by taking my shoulder through its full pain-free range of motion, I can actively try and improve my mobility, which is how much range of motion I can control, as opposed to flexibility, which is just how much range of motion I have access to. And range of motion I have access to that I cannot control is essentially a useless range of motion. So with our stretching, we need to be a little bit more active and controlled. And so I can do something like these CARs, again, controlled articular rotations, to make sure that I actually can control these ranges of motion. So by opening up the shoulders, taking it through really every single shoulder joint motion, external rotation, internal rotation, flexion and extension, I can now make sure my shoulder can actually do shoulder things and take some of the load off. Well, make sure my shoulder can improve its tissue tolerance now. But if I'm having elbow issues, I can take some of the load off of my elbows as well. And those hip 90-90s, I can potentially take some load off of my knees or off of my back by making sure my hips function the way hips are supposed to function. My third favorite drill, low back injuries are super common in the fire service, in EMS and first responders in general. And if you watch one of my other previous videos, the sumo deadlift is one of my favorite exercises for building up strength for first responders. But today I'm going to talk about a Romanian deadlift, which is going to focus a lot more on building up this low back, glute, and hamstring strength. So you can do this with a lot of implements. I prefer a barbell. This is my PVC pipe barbell for teaching purposes. But the movement's going to be the same no matter what the implement is. So side facing view to start. I like about just a hips width stance, feet dead straight ahead. We're going to start standing up nice and tall. Hands just outside the hips. Really don't care about grip width for the most part. I'm going to start by squeezing my shoulder blades together. cue I kind of like on this one is squeeze an orange in your armpits, get your lats nice and tight, because my lats and my glutes are going to kind of make this X to help keep my low back nice and safe. So squeeze the shoulder blades, get the lats tight. Bar is going to stay touching on my legs. I'm going to reach my hips back. The cue I really like that's kind of comical is try and close the car door with your butt. It's going to be reaching back, right? So I'm going to slide the bar down my legs, just get down just below the knees, so you should be getting a gentle stretch in the hamstrings. And again, I'm staying active with my lats. Don't let the upper body get lazy. Stay very engaged and squeezed, and then come right back up. So hopefully the side-facing view is doing a good job, and I'm doing a good job demonstrating. Ideally, the bar is moving straight up and down, or pretty darn close to it. So from the front, with this hipless stance, again, it's just going to be a hip hinge. So I'm not bending the knees. I have a slight bend to start, but all the movement's coming from my hips and then coming right back up. If I let the implement travel out in front, that is going to put a lot more stress on the back, which in this case is not something I want to do. I want to try and load up these hips. The low back is still going to be getting some action on this one, and we can do something like a good morning later to load up the back more directly. But for my Romanian deadlifts, I want to keep the bar nice and tight. Chest up, shoulder blades squeezed, slide it right down, come on back up. And honestly, something like 3 sets of 5 is a great place to start on these. We can progress and go a little bit more reps occasionally, a little bit more volume, a little bit less reps, and go a little bit more strength. But 3x5 is a pretty good starting place to start working these in, and start light. Get a feel for it with the barbell before you start loading these up. But I also like 2 dumbbells, a single kettlebell down in between. But Romanian deadlifts are a great way to build up our posterior chain strength, which is our hamstrings, our glutes, and our low back. And coming back to that injury equation, if I can improve my strength, I can improve my body's ability to absorb force, so that when the forces come in, my tissue tolerance is now greater, hopefully, than the applied forces. We certainly can't eliminate injuries. Stuff happens. When there is a job to do, get the job done. In the gym, we want to be as safe as possible. Our goal in here is to keep you healthy for out there. But even out there, we can mitigate the risk, certainly, but we can never eliminate the risk of injuries, but we can certainly set ourselves up for success. So improve your tissue tolerance, get stronger, make sure your joints move the way your joints are supposed to move so that nothing else has to pick up the slack, and we can set ourselves up for success and stay healthy for a long career in the fire industry. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you learned something, help keep you guys healthy out there on the job. If you enjoyed this video, like, if you have a question, comment, drop in the comments down below. Feel free to subscribe and send it to somebody that you think would like this video. I'll catch you later.